In my last video, I promised you that I was going to start breaking down the content patch and telling people how to absolutely dominate. But in order to do that, you got to know who was the biggest beneficiaries and the biggest losers of the content patch. So we're going to start out today talking with the healer class. And for years, we've had one particular person or one particular bot, set of bots that was just dominant as a healer. Well, that might have changed a little bit, and I think that we have a new king of healing, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. In this episode of Dominate, we're diving into the healer class, what's changed, what got buffed, and like I mentioned, we're going to see who's now sitting on top of the throne of the healing class and what the future may look like for the healing class as well. This particular patch, it didn't just boost healing stats; it shifted how the medics actually function. It actually improved it greatly. And I'll leave a link for the content patch notes if you haven't seen them already, just so you can check that out for yourself. But the baseline of that is the medic class now has a 2% health regen every 5 seconds. That's all across the entire class. So it's used to be with a Flatline and Minerva thing, but now that's something that's going to be baseline across the entire healer class. Their AI targeting got smarter. It did improve. It did take some work in the playtest server to get that up to snuff, and that alone helps everything in war. I've noticed small and differences, I should say, and I want to get into it though. I want to get into what's going on. We're going to take a look at each one of the healers individually and break down why we have a new king of healing. So let's go take a look at some stats, and I will see you shortly. So to start out this whole segment, we got to talk about where we're coming from originally. And the original king, well, not the original king, but the king for the last couple of years has been Flatline and Minerva, in regards to the healing class. And when you go look at the ability, the ability, it's just got a lot of extra health. I mean, compared to other healers, um, one thing that people have been dying to get is an ability 11. Uh, the Yodo 1 team did say, look, we'll give them an ability 11 eventually. It was real late in the content patch log. They said it needs more time before we do that. But when you look at this ability and see that it's given 842 health per second, and it's doing that for 15 seconds. That's a really great ability. Many content creators and developers have said, yeah, that's maybe a little bit overpowered. And I love the tooltip change they made where they actually add the total to all of your DPS, all of your healing. So, you're talking about the duration of that entire ability, 12,632 healing, makes for an excellent bot. It's still an excellent bot, even though there's a new king. And that particular target is, well, it can't be targeted, that turret, so it really makes for a pretty dominant bot. But look at the baseline stats, and this is going to be really important because I need you guys to take a look at the healing that we have, and I actually look at the breakdown real quick. And so, with all the different perks and rank bonuses and stuff, I do have this particular one ranked at captain. And so, with that being at captain, that has us at a total healing per second of 586.1. This is the level 75 star that we're looking at. And his base healing without all that extra stuff is 443.2. So pretty high compared, and that's without combats, that's without any additional power cores and stuff like that. Obviously those items add to it a little bit. So let's compare those stats and then look at our new king. So if you look at the actual change log, one of the things that showed up there in the list of buffs was that Ratchet and Hook had a little bit of a rework, and their stats are actually much better. So I'll start with the smaller stuff. Their duration of their shield went from 5 seconds to 8 seconds, and the healing increased by 35%. And they're talking about 4 to 5 star maxed out. It's 35%. They did some addition. I think they said 360 HP per hit. So you now get a total of around 6.8. Well, actually, it buffed even more than that because you can actually see the healing grenade up here on the ability as well. So I got this one in here. So first off, this does have an ability 11, and you know it's up there. When you launch that grenade, it says it gives you 1,362 health, and that's a total of 10,898 per second to all of the allies. So if you got Ratchet, then it'll be Autobot. If you got Hook, it'll be Decepticons. But it's in a large area. You're gonna get that 40% damage reduction shield, like I already mentioned. That's gonna be 8 seconds long. So it's it's a little bit longer in duration. You can get some protection for your team, in addition to just having like a really large health boost, and it's instant. You don't have to really wait on it or anything like you have to do with Minerva. Minerva's does last longer, so it's 15 seconds, but it's over time, so you have to survive whatever's going on at that time. And it's always been one of the reasons, like for years, I didn't use Minerva or Flatline for that. But obviously, the overall impact was much stronger. Plus, it's a little bit lower cost, compared to Flatline and Minerva. So at 4+2 to get almost 11k of healing definitely works. I do want to show everybody that it is the same rank. I got him at the rank of captain, so it's not anything there where that's what's causing the difference. But then look at his base healing as well. His base healing is honestly now pretty strong as it goes to 534.2. When you add those same bonuses that we added to Flatline and Minerva, you wind up with a total of 706.5 compared to the healing we had here at 586.1. So it's a pretty substantial difference. You definitely have the opportunity to use both. If you are a double healer user, I am not. I already have a lot of um, warriors and stuff on my team, so I want to make sure that I keep as much damage up as possible. So I'm single healer. But this is what it looks like, and that's before you start to get into digging around at any of the specific power cores. Like you can see here that I go use G1 Hook. And when I add that, let's take a look at how large that boost is. You can see that it's 17.4% healing and a 25% attack and move speed. When you look at that statistically, now that's pushed them up to 829.4 in healing. Like I'm looking at all this on the playtest server, um, and I use this on the live server. I'm gonna go ahead and add Ozu, who is CL for you guys on the Autobot side, and then you can see that boosting is now going to allow you to target some of your allies, give them 54% basically splash healing to your allies as well. It's going to have a direct target. Don't want to open that can of worms again, but it's going to have one target that it goes to for the healing and the reflection. So that said, that is quite a substantial healing boost. He just simply outpaces. You lose a little bit, I think, with the ability overall, but the ability is instant. It makes it a no-brainer for me that this is the new king of Transformers Earth Wars. And as a playtester, I'll put on the playtester hat for a second. What I'm going to be pushing for is when we do get to the point of time when Flatline and Minerva are going to get an ability 11 when that time comes. I want to kind of push for it to be make Flatline and Minerva better than Hook and Ratchet, just because uh, he's been the best so long. I mean, I want to say, and I have to go fact check this because I do have some documents on bots that have been used since the patch, and I've seen some past uh, data from the Yodo team. Flatline and Minerva, like, if not the top bot, I think they're the top bot that's used in the game. Huh. But now maybe that should change. Let's take a look at the rest of the healers and see what they got going. Now, real quick, I want to just talk about um, Shockwave and Wheeljack. Um, so they originally had a speed buff, and please take notice that in the actual change log, it's actually written in there incorrectly. It's talking about Wheeljack and Ratchet. It should be Wheeljack and Shockwave, which is the Decepticon counterpart. But the speed buff scaling was fixed. It's always supposed to be 6 seconds. When you go look at it, we can actually go take a look. We've had some different variations of what it says in the tooltip. When I looked in the live server, I believe it actually said 8 seconds. In this case, it says 10. I haven't used him since I got my account re-imported on the test server, and I don't even have them on the live server. Actually, I think the 8 seconds I saw was for the 4 star, so it might actually scale to 10, but it's actually supposed to be 6 seconds. Something real small worth mentioning. All right, so let's talk about Junk Heap and Reflector. I've got him at level 70 right here. Got him as a sergeant. I can take him on the test server. I can take him up to captain. I want to look at these guys as captains. And obviously, one of the downfalls that a lot of people just didn't even go for Junk Heap because of the lower healing when he first came out. But one of the good things that came out of this change log was a minor change to the mechanics of how the ability operates. And so there was a lot of discussion when we first got Junk Heap and Rekgar into the test server regarding how the ability would work. The argument at the time was whether it should be a revive as opposed to a heal. When you do have a revive, it's a completely independent mechanic from healing. So that means when you have a lot of your anti-healing cores, anything like that, the revive is it's supposed to work. You have ability 1 through 10, immunity for 2 seconds. So when you look at the tooltip, and let me go back to that tooltip, it's giving you a little bit of an invulnerability there. So in that regard, that immunity is for 2 seconds. At ability 4, that goes up to 4 seconds, and then the ally is going to gain 40% attack and move speed up for 6 seconds. So it's a good buff. It's still a weaker healer. It's still a relatively costly ability because when you look at a cost of 5 plus 5 and you see that that's the same cost that you have for Flatline and Minerva, it's kind of hard to justify. Hey, yes, I love the ability and I use Junk Heap. I'm almost maxed him out almost immediately. And one of the reasons why I did that is because I felt like I could open up some new tactics where I could rush bots ahead and then just give them a revive and not worry about them dying and stuff like that. But in theory, when you have a 5 plus 5 cost ability and you look at like Flatline and Minerva where they can just heal an entire team over the course of 15 seconds, one of the things I do think should have happened is that Junk Heap and Rekgar probably could have came down even further in cost. But I do appreciate that the revive is just a revive and not a heal because that's the main talking point that kept people from going after him originally. So we'll move on. We got one last healer to look at, and we'll see how their changes went, so that we can kind of wrap this up. Now, this one I saved for last just because he's real close to my heart, but just because this is the first healer that I had, and was the only healer I had for a long time, like as a 5 star. Just because even when I went to Horde Family, I was like, look, this is the 5 star healer I got. And then I started using Hook, and then I started using other healers. So I've actually got well versed in all of them. But Reflector and First Aid did have some changes. Those changes are indeed buffs. And let me just go through the notes real quick, because the biggest thing here is that they got their healing. The healing did get pushed up. The healing's double. Um, but the healing is honestly is still relatively low, but the ability 11 is now 40% stronger and shows HPS in the tooltip. The minions retarget a little bit faster than they once did, so you are able to essentially get some really good shielding, and get some you're able to get just a little bit more healing from. So I want to take a look at a couple of these healers, and I'll do it in a base trial, just because I want people to be able to see how they all interact with teams. So I'll start with the king. I'll start with Hook, who I've got on a modified version of my war team. Like, well, this was my actual war team up until today. I actually made one more change today and added in exhaust again. Armada's still gonna get some work though. It's just gonna be one of those things where it'll be situational. But I kind of want to zoom in some so I can see just how that looks, where his target is. They still had the bugged version of CL and Ozu on there. But you can see that as he's targeting, I mean, I hadn't really done too much to try to clear anything out, but he's keeping him pretty healthy. Um, and it's just like, because, his healing is so high, you can actually use it a lot on just a lot of different bots when you combine it with a combat like Ozu. Um, but yeah, and, I'm not really doing anything. I just kind of just mash his ability a couple of times. It kind of keeps the team relatively healthy, even with me not doing anything really to attack on the attacking side. So it's pretty cool. It actually allows them some pretty good survivability there. Minerva always does what Minerva does, so I'm not really gonna go too deep into that. But I do want to take another look at. I want to take a look at Reflector and First Aid. And I did get the test content when it first came out. It it's cool. I've always loved what Reflector does because you got some additional protection. The problem that I have with Reflector is the fact that you got two different sets of build bots that can kind of get away, because now you've got your shields that can be affected by FFD, and then you've got your anti-healing cores as well. That's always been a bit, once we got to the point of having these healing cores, that's what kind of got on my nerves a little bit. So I need to actually take out this FFD so that I can take a look at the ability, the new reworked ability of Reflector. And kind of the same thing. I just want to kind of see how his healing does. I definitely can see an improvement from where he was. There's actually quite a bit of improvement from where he was. and I'm just not really attacking anything. I'm just kind of letting him do his thing. And yeah, so it's an improvement. It's not something that's gonna make him top tier, but it's something that is like, hey, now it's not as much of a liability if this is all you have, like I did back in the day. So, but let me know what you think. Who are you using as your healers? I'm going to continue this series. I think next, I'm going to start talking about the warrior class. So be on the lookout for that video, and be on the lookout for my live streams Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll see you there, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Freezius out.